The collapse of the Soviet Union, the end of one era and the beginning of another. The single most significant event of the Cold War and perhaps the most significant event of the late 20th century. This mighty fall is often accredited to the work of one man, Mikhail Gorbachev. However, the roots of the collapse of the Soviet Union run far deeper. Though Gorbachev's inaction in Eastern Europe in the late 1980s proved to be the tipping point for the Soviet Union, problems in the Soviet Union were evident at its very inception, throughout the administrations of its various leaders, and with the economic system of the USSR, culminating in its dissolution in 1991. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics was established in 1922 under Vladimir Lenin, the revolutionary hero, who sat at the helm. The early days of the Soviet Union under Lenin set the stage for later Soviet leadership, an elite party dictatorship in which a small oligarchy enamored with power controlled the entirety of the conglomerate republics. At the same time, the first economic system was established, war communism. In short, it was an economic catastrophe. A few years later, the new economic plan was enacted by Lenin. But it was too little too late. The Soviet economy would forever have loose roots. Leon Trotsky even described the Soviet economy as far closer to backward capitalism than to communism, showing that the government was failing its mission from its inception. On Lenin's death in 1924, the next prominent leader to take power in the USSR was Joseph Stalin. In the mid-1930s, Stalin's paranoia led him to enact a series of exterminations within the country known as the Purges. Millions died within the Soviet Union, including many prominent communist leaders. When Germany attacked the USSR in World War II, the USSR fought what it called the Great Patriotic War. After the Purges, the country was significantly weakened. Fierce battles in Stalingrad in the south led to the emergence of the USSR as a victorious power. However, the Soviet Union lost 20 million lives in the process. Further, the Soviet Union was gradually growing weaker. After the war, the USSR became heavily involved in Eastern Europe. Through the Marshall Plan, the US offered European countries, including Eastern Europe, economic aid in the wake of World War II, but Stalin refused to allow any communist countries to accept aid from the West, keeping them in an economic depression. As relations with the West cooled, the Iron Curtain emerged in Europe and the Cold War had begun. Only one side could emerge victorious.
The next leader was Nikita Khrushchev. On February 25, 1956, Khrushchev began his de-Stalinization of Russia with his secret speech. New freedoms given by Khrushchev inspired the Poles and Hungarians to act independently of the USSR and occasionally revolt. Khrushchev also poured excessive amounts of money into the space race and the nuclear arms race against the US. He began draining the economy by funding the cosmonaut program and building rockets and satellites. His excessive building of nuclear ICBMs and the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 strained the USSR-US relations even more while continuing to tax the Soviet economy. Khrushchev's failure to solve the agricultural problems sparked by Stalin's 5-year plans and worsening of the economy caused him to be disliked by most Soviet citizens. Conditions were so poor in the Soviet-ruled East Germany that Khrushchev had to build the Berlin Wall in 1961 to stem the outflow of Germans. This decision isolated the Soviet economy from Western countries and increased inflation tenfold. During the Khrushchev administration, the United States and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization enacted a plan of containment. Containment was aimed at economically isolating the Soviet Union and other communist strongholds, on the basis that its collapse would be inevitable because of the economic system was not sustainable.
Leonid Brezhnev succeeded Khrushchev beginning in 1964. Like Khrushchev, Brezhnev also directed the Soviet economy toward building the largest military in the world, instead of fixing the existing domestic crisis. In 1968, Brezhnev enacted the Brezhnev Doctrine, which sought to maintain communist governments in Eastern Europe, leading to the military invasion of Czechoslovakia. He further damaged the economy by continuing to fund and fight wars around the world, such as the costly Soviet-Afghan War. By far, the most liberal leader of the Soviet Union was Mikhail Gorbachev. Gorbachev enacted policies of glasnost and perestroika in 1987, which were intended to boost the economy and allow government criticism in multiple parties. But in the end, these plans both failed miserably and created greater disunity between the Soviet republics. The economy was so weak that even though the Soviet Union had the largest military in the world, it couldn't use it to stop the rebellious republics from gaining independence. In August 1991, communist conservatives started a coup to overthrow Gorbachev. Boris Yeltsin successfully quelled the coup and Gorbachev's power steadily transferred to Yeltsin. On December 26, 1991, the inevitable came: the dissolution of the Soviet Union, 69 years in the making.